everyone. So my name is Luis. I am the CEO, founder of Asentex. Since 2003, I've been working on various business process improvements, e-forms, workflows, BPM systems, CRM systems, just all across the board. Throughout the years, one of the things I found was it's really all about mindset and how you want to approach your business, the process, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just go over a few slides. But really all of this is about understanding how you can simplify your business with Zoho, right? And in this case, I tend to focus a lot more on Zoho 1. If you don't have Zoho 1, that's okay. The mindset still applies, whether you're just using CRM, Zoho Desk, or something like that, it still all applies. So what I wanted to do is just kind of let you know that what we talk about, and although our focus is real estate industry, it applies across the board. I think one of the, Chris, one of them, I think he provides building materials. So although it's not, our common real estate industry, you are in that industry and you're providing a service. So the mindset of process still applies. So what is this all about? Throughout the years, one of the things I found was if you have a champion, and that could be you, right? And what I mean by champion is this person is the one who's going to lead the charge and really focus on improving the process. I call them like citizen developers, right? They are not necessarily IT people, but they know a process really well. They understand whether it's a sales or a back-end operation, something, but they know it really well. They just need a little guidance on how to best approach it in a system like Zoho, right? So if you become that person, others tend to follow, right? And what you want to do is if you have a bigger organization, build other champions that, kind of follow the same mindset of like, hey, I want to improve my process little by little. One of the other things I highly recommend, and I know Zoho is doing a really good job on this, is the community. So find partners, find people in your same industry, other people that are using Zoho, right? Find some partners. So Zoho partners, like for example, Asentex, we are a Zoho partner. So we offer services to help companies that are using Zoho. There are meetups, all of this, right? So all of that plays a role. But one thing I do highly recommend is continuous improvement. Don't try to figure it all out in 30 days, 60 days. Get the core of it going, but continuous improvement will make things easier because people have to take care of their day-to-day business tasks. That's just the way it goes. So adding more tasks like this can overwhelm them. But if you have a cadence, right, of like, hey, every, once a week or every 2 weeks, we're going to make 1 improvement, 2 improvements. That ends up adding up over time. So that's very powerful right there. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So how do I focus on process? Well, it doesn't matter the platform. It does not matter the technology. Yes, the technology has impact. There are areas that can affect the way a certain process can be. But for the most part, what I've seen in different industries is that if you understand your process and you have a pretty good idea of what you want it to do, and you help kind of clarify that, you can use diagrams, you can use spreadsheets, something to just kind of write it down. That's a very big help for yourself, but also for anyone who's going to work on your system, whether that's someone like us, for example, or someone on your team, someone in Zoho. We as people, we're very visual, right? So anything we can see like that just tends to make things easier. The other thing I always keep in mind is the 80-20 rule. If this is something that's done manually very often, and we know we can automate that or even just simplify it, that's what we want to focus on. The other 20%, it's kind of one of those, how often does it happen? Is it a big task? Is it a very manual task? But the goal is keep it simple, right? Minimize the multiple data entry and getting information from one place, copying, pasting into a spreadsheet. Try to minimize that over time. Okay, so as we now have kind of identified some kind of process, it's also important to know who your audience is, right? Your prospects, who are they? Is it an individual, right? Are you doing business to consumer type? Are you doing a business to business? And business doesn't necessarily have to mean, like it could be government agencies, it could be things like that, but it's just a entity to entity kind of thing. But you also may be dealing with both. This is very critical because, as we'll see in a little bit, the way you convert a lead to an account/contact plays a major role in how this whole process will work. Okay, the other thing you want to, keep in mind is, do you have people that refer? Do you have businesses that refer, business to you, potential leads, so on and so forth, partners? So just kind of understand who do you work with in your community, right? Okay, so leads. Where do you source the leads? How do they get into your system, right? How do you track them? What cadence do you have? As soon as they enter your system, do you send out an automatic email? Do you want to set up an automatic text message? Kind of what do you want it? What do you currently do? What do you want the system to do? Now, I bring this up as far as at what point do you determine the lead to be a qualified lead? Now, an example could be, you generated a lead, an online lead, email was sent out, then you follow up with a phone call, and you just kind of go over some of your product or service, and they say, yes, I want to proceed. Now, that's a qualified lead. So at this stage, what's your process? Do you send a quote? Do you send a proposal? Kind of what are those next steps? But this is very important because what I tell the clients we work with is we want to quickly identify that lead so that we can convert them to an account/contact, because now we're going to access the deals module. And in there, that's where you have a lot more control of, the modules, how you're going to manage the deal, information within the deal. Now, keep this in mind. Good data in, good data out. So same thing for bad data. If you don't have a smooth process and the data is kind of all over the place, the KPIs, the reporting, the thing that you need at the end of the day to help make decisions is not going to be smooth. It's not going to be clear. So the more we can help minimize user errors, user mistakes, the better off your business will be able to see what's really happening. Okay, so here's how like a Zoho lead conversion happens. So you have your lead, right? You have your basic information. And then when you go to convert, if there's a company listed, then what it does is that it creates an account. That contact that was listed as a lead is also converted, and it creates a contact. That contact is associated with that account. So that's usually a business to business, business to government type of lead flow, conversion flow. If you deal with individuals and they don't have a company, then what happens is that just a contact gets created, and that's perfectly okay. Now, in the deals module, if you have an account, it will associate that deal with that account. If you have a contact, you associate the deal with the contact. Okay, so high level, this is kind of how it works. So whether you're new to Zoho, you're experienced in Zoho, we've seen it all across the board where, some clients, they've been using Zoho for a while, and they find us because they need a little help in kind of reassessing their system. Some things are not working smoothly. So I bring this up because if you're new to Zoho, you're better off kind of making sure you have your process identified. What do you want the system to do? If you have a small cadence, just a simple cadence, start with that. You can always enhance, you can always make adjustments. So in the deals module, you can create different pipelines. So this is an example, and we'll see here on the left side, like if you have a pipeline called sell property, you can have various stages, right, that you go through. Now, these are just examples. You can change it. You can make it whatever you need it to be based on how you operate. Now, each pipeline can have various stages. And in those stages, you can set certain conditions. So for example, if you have certain checklists or certain fields that need to be filled out, they have to be completed before you can move it to a next stage, you can do that. And that's the beauty of understanding your workflow, your pipeline, the stages. And it doesn't necessarily only have to mean sales related, right? Like once a deal is closed, your sale, you can use the pipeline for other things too, right? So if you're kind of working through customer testimonials, that can be necessarily a deal. There's different ways you can kind of approach it. So we tend to really focus on the sales because that's where a majority of businesses tend to focus with the CRM. So here, this is just an example. And later on, Sam, when he goes through the product demo, you'll get to see a little bit more of how that works there. Okay, so when building a home, there are a lot of components, right? There are different team members that are involved. And I bring this up because Zoho is it has a lot of applications, a lot of solutions that are involved. I understand technology. I can get in there and be kind of dangerous, but I cannot do everything that's in there. And what I see is that a lot of small businesses have the same challenges as medium and large enterprises, but they don't have the resources. They don't have maybe the experience of building several apps and being involved in what it takes. So just understand and know that there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, right? So in Zoho and the whole platform, right? Especially if you're using like Zoho One, you have access to all of these things. So in an environment where, like I've been in part of projects where we have several people attached to a project because we are building a large platform, right? And so all of these things are happening. But the beauty about something like Zoho is it's very user-friendly. And a lot of these apps are there ready to go. There are some integrations that you may need to work, but for the price that you get with Zoho One and the access to the apps, I mean, I've worked with other systems, I've seen other systems, and this by far is the most simplified I've seen. And you have access to a lot. But also having access to a lot is that shiny, that shiny new object, right? It's kind of like, oh, I want to have this and this and this. But I will warn you, focus on the core apps in the beginning, okay? And from what we've seen, these are kind of, in the way we've seen them for the most part, is definitely your CRM, Zoho campaigns, your Zoho forms, right? So that's different than the web forms that are in the CRM. So that we use that a lot because we have a lot more control of how it looks and the conditions that we can set. So we use that. Zoho Sign. We tend to move clients that are, they were struggling, for example, like with DocuSign, we can move them over to Zoho Sign, kind of implement everything. Technology is technology. There's technical problems in every platform. I think the biggest thing that we all have to understand, and even for us, right, where it's technology, and the biggest thing is we have to find a way to try to solve it, find a workaround, but also notify, in this case, like Zoho team, hey, we're trying to accomplish this. We've tried this and this, but it didn't work. What's the best way to get it done? Now, Zoho support team may take that and say, you know what, this is a good idea, and this, we can implement this, and this can be available for all users, right? And sometimes they give us solutions that are specific to a very unique case that we have. So going back to the main apps, without understanding the process, all of this can be overwhelming. And what I highly recommend is don't try to automate everything at once. It does not work. Over time, it becomes easier. You have to focus on your business. You have to focus on those revenue generating activities. However, when you focus on things, for example, improving your process, that's working on the business, right? You're working on things so that they become easier and much more manageable. But you still have to get work done. You still have to close those deals. So I'm not going to go into all of these apps right here. Just know that these tend to be the main ones we've seen and we've noticed. But there are others that kind of are support of those. Like, for example, Sales IQ. If you have online chat, you have your AI. I know Zoho is working a lot with Zia, which is like the AI and everything. So keep it simple. But also, as a warning, when you start off with Zoho, it's like a blank canvas. You have access to all of these things, all of these tools. You can set certain fields up, and that can be dangerous down the line, in the sense of if you set the wrong field type and you're trying to make changes later, that can affect how your data gathering goes. So here's what I like to tell our clients is keep the open type of text fields to a minimum if possible. First name, last name, multi-line text, those are great. If you have fields that like you see consistent value happening, use a drop-down, use a radio button. Why? Because you minimize user error, misspelling, and for the purposes of reporting and setting triggers for workflows, we have, as developers, we have much more control, and that's much more manageable for us to be able to do when we have those types of fields. So just keep that in mind, right? Drop down fields, radio buttons, check boxes, things like that. And if you ever do integrations, that makes the job much easier as well. So some of the things that we've seen when we have a new client like that's moving to Zoho, we always start with the foundation things. If they're an existing Zoho user, for example, and they ask us for help, we still go through these kind of like a checklist with them. This is critical because this sets the stage for how the system can send emails and everything else, right? So
hey, Louis, I have a question.
Sure.
So before you move into the applications, going back to the process and the process mapping. So, you made a good point as far as mentioning like most small businesses don't have the resources as, like enterprise companies to where, especially the internal resources, to do a lot of this process mapping. So let's say if a small business owner wanted to start using a Zoho app and was looking to work with one of the Zoho partners. As you mentioned, having partners, it's important, an implementation partner like Sarah or yourself that we have on here. When it comes to the mapping of their process for their business, I think there's like a generally accepted categorization. I think it goes from like level 1 to like level 5. Level 1 is like at the macro level, just it maps the customer journey as you kind of do with that slide, how the conversion process works. And then level 5 gets it to where you are now, talk about fields and clicks and screens and modules, field types. How granular do you guys recommend, you or Sarah recommend that a business owner go with their process mapping before they begin to engage with an implementation partner? Do they need to get down to the granular level? Because if they're bringing on a new system, some things are going to change. So how detailed should they go with their process mapping before working with an implementation partner?
So I'm gonna help separate that component into this, right? In the regards to like Zoho partners, and then I believe you mentioned Sarah, right? Sarah is on the call as well, and I would like to get her feedback as well. But keep this in mind: in Zoho partners, they don't necessarily have to be a partner, but here's how to think of this: you have Zoho partners who are straight focused on development, right? And this is talking from experience outside of Zoho, right? This is also other platforms I've working with, programmers, everything, is that if they are a developer mind focused person or group, they're going to want to know every detail. And if they're good at what they do as a developer, it's this, if this, then that, then trigger this email, then do this, right? So that's probably the level 5, right? Tell me each field, what is it going to do? What values does it have? All of this, right? they can go, but if they're a lot more process minded and they're more of a guiding and consulting type, they're going to take a level 1, level 2 type of, diagram, maybe a spreadsheet. They're going to process that, list their questions, and then meet with the client over a meeting, right? And just go over the questions. Okay, step 1 is this. So what happens here, right? So they have to be process minded. So be careful of knowing the difference. Now, the process minded partner / consultant can also be a developer, or they can have their team, right, that does the actual development. So to answer your question, my recommendation is level 1, level 2, level 3, meaning like, okay, now you can kind of maybe even start doing a diagram. We use Lucid charts quite a bit. We like it. It's very simple. We have some templates that we kind of start with and help, lay things out from a foundation standpoint in the process. So if you're going to work with anyone, just try to understand, are they more developer focused or more process driven, guiding, consulting? Does that help answer your question a little bit?
100%, 100%. Because something I came across that may happen is, the business is supposed to drive the technology. And if a business gets with a developer-minded partner, they may let the technology drive the business. So whatever secret sauce processes that business owner may have, the developer may say, you know what, we already have something that's custom fit for your industry, and we're just going to go ahead and just, duplicate that and just lay that over your instance. And they may lose some of those processes that they have that are critical to their business success. That may give them a competitive advantage. So thank you.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. It really helps you as a business owner or the expert in your area, right? So whether you're an employee of the company, you're kind of leading the charge and implementation and everything, writing down your processes, kind of seeing it visually. You can even start with a spreadsheet. You can start with a Word document. Here's what we do first. Here's what we do next. And then this, and then this. Give it some time, create a diagram out of it, right? A visual diagram. Lucid chart is there, and there are plenty of others, but kind of see what that would look like when you start to chart it out. And you'll start to see, oh, wow, here's an area we can make some improvements on, or, then for us, like as developers, as partners, we can look at that and say, well, we can automate this part, we can do this, and we can do that. So if you find the right partner, they're going to guide you, right? I'm very cautious because look, I have to interview and develop, right? Because as we grow and things like that, like I'm very cautious. And so I'm always looking for a business process minded person first. And then I look at how they operate from a technical standpoint, because technical, they can learn, but process mind, it just takes a certain individual. It's just a certain mindset. So as we move into more of like this low code, no code type of, world in applications, and that's what Zoho is, you want to make sure the process is smooth, is good. It's not going to be perfect. Don't expect that. Don't wait for that either. Get moving on things, implement some stuff, and you can always make adjustments. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back.
Okay. This is Sam here. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to I like to add one more point to it. Like Louis and Sarah suggested, we have so many customers who have the exact same question like Chris had: where to start, what to do, and how to approach the applications. I'm not going to differ from what Louis said, but my take on it is it's not necessary that you should start with CRM per se. We have customers who started with campaigns because that was their initial requirement. And from there, they started to use other applications as they have a need to run their business. To take one particular example, we have a customer in South Africa who is a real estate customer. They started with social because that is what they needed to just market their business. And then they slowly started using CRM. Then they started using projects. Now they have 100+ users who are actively using Zoho One. So the idea is to have a process in mind. And of course, process changes as the business evolves. You get more people in, you might diversify and everything. But it's always better to have a vision and put it down somewhere, like Louis suggested, even if it's a spreadsheet or just a flow chart, or just take out a notepad and write it down on what you want to do and how you approach it. And from then on, you can take a path. And like Louis suggested, the technical things can be added whenever you want. Even sometimes when you don't know, few things can be automated. That's where partners and people from Zoho support can be of help. We can just minimize your tedious work so that you can actually do your business, interact with customers and everything. So start somewhere. It's not even necessary that it should be with CRM, but it's better to start somewhere with any Zoho application and just evolve, and we can just play it by the ear. That's my take on it.
Yep,
Sorry,
start
please
somewhere,
go ahead.
right? Exactly. Yeah, just start somewhere and build up. Let the business, kind of determine what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and continue here. So this is some foundation things. So whether you're familiar with it or not, that's okay. Don't feel like overwhelming or anything like all of this. I just want to make sure that we bring this up because we tend to see this more often than not. And especially for like existing Zoho, we're trying to make sure that the foundation is set up, right? So they want to be able to send emails from the system. They want to be able to track emails that are sent to a specific lead or account or contact, right? Things like that. And I want to make this note. If you see at the bottom, right, I have that urgent note down there. There are a lot of regulations coming into play. They have already kicked in. One of them being that if you're using a domain, right, email service provider like Asentex.com, you have to make sure you have your DKIM, your SPF, and your DMARC set up properly. Google, Yahoo are kicking out emails. They're making them go to junk. They're not even being delivered if those are not set up properly. So another thing that we're seeing is that if you use like gmail.com, but it's your business, you can't use that for sending out emails. They're starting to be limited. If you can't send those out to from CRM systems, you have to have like a domain, like mybusiness.com. So just be aware of that. There are requirements, compliance, things that are coming in a lot more. So as a small business owner, or if you're involved in a small business, just be aware of that. You have to protect that part. Make sure if you are using like a mybusiness.com kind of domain, make sure whoever operates your web hosting, your email service, make sure you get that done. Okay. This is very cool. If you do not know about Zoho Canvas and this is in your CRM, highly, highly recommended. The user experience goes to a whole new level when you use Zoho Canvas. Okay, you can lay out the fields in a certain way. You can, you just have a lot more control of how it looks and feels. They have some templates. There are some, some other designers that have created some designs, some templates you can start with. You can start with your own. Highly, highly recommend you start trying this out. It makes a big difference. And I'm going to say as a developer, it helps us out a lot as well because we can add custom buttons, we can change the color, we can align them certain places. If you need a custom button in a certain place, we can do that. So it kind of, just the whole user experience changes. Okay, Sandbox. So we use this a lot, especially because in the world that I come from like development, we have a dev server, a testing, a QA, and a production server, right? So we have to, when changes are made in dev, we push them all the way through. So a sandbox plays two major roles. One is if you're not sure of a change, if you're not sure of an idea, but you want to test it out, you can use the sandbox to test it out. You can see, what's going to happen if you make some changes. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people make changes on the live site, and once you make a change on the live site, it's there. So please use a sandbox. You can use it for testing purposes, trying things out. There are some limitations on integration, so you just, that's kind of one of those things from a development standpoint we have to kind of work around. But yeah, sandbox can be very useful. Okay, so that's my presentation for now. So Sam, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, perfect. So I went ahead and stopped sharing. If you want to go ahead and share your screen, and we'll do the a demo that you have ready.
Yeah. So most of you here are like experts from real estate who have been to the previous sessions as well. So I just wanted to open the floor for you guys on, I just want to know what you want to see today so that I can just give a demo on that, because we have already had few demos earlier in the previous months with Kiosk, and we also had a demo with the Sales IQ as well. So I just wanted to open the floor for you guys. If you want to look into it, look into anything particular, we probably can look into it. Or if you just want me to give an overview of what is what, we can do that as well.
All right, I'll bring up an old request that I had a while back. Is within CRM, what's it called? Attribution. The attribution. I know there's several different models, but there's something that I'm not doing because I have a very basic, very simple requirement that's not working, that I can get to work, that I flawed somewhere and I don't know where. So if you could just do just a high level with the use case, okay, hey, we're sending out direct mail and to our database, and when inquiries come in, we are asking them, hey, how did you hear about us? Or we're assigning deals to folks that return to us from our database to that campaign. So we're trying to attribute that deal to that direct mail piece. And the numbers are just going all over the place. They just aren't matching up, somehow, some way. So if you have time for that, cool. If that's gonna, if that won't fit, within the time that you have set for this, that's fine. Life goes on. I'll figure it out. Again, it's on me. There's something that I'm not doing, but I just can't figure it out because, again, I have a very basic, very simple requirement when it comes to the attribution.
Thank you, Chris. So let me give you just a quick overview on what marketing attribution does. Probably, I think we have a plan to take marketing attribution and marketing automation as a separate demo. And I think we have planned one for that. So we'll probably have a detailed view on what we can do and what we cannot do and what are the limitations on both marketing attribution and marketing automation as well.
Okay,
but before
I can wait. I can wait.
All right. So in general, what we do with marketing attribution is to ensure that the actions that you perform based on the emails that you send across, the marketing that you do with your business, and we work through touch points when it comes to marketing attribution. So based on touch points, by touch points, I mean what happens when something happens, when something is done by the customer, not only by the user, but also by the customer. Like when you send an email, if you get a response, that is a touch point. When you send an email, also from sending the response, did they click on the links or the images or the attachments? That is another touch point. So based on each and every touch point that we have, we can trigger few automations within the system and calculate the return of investment as well. So that is what we try to do with marketing attribution. And there are like different types of marketing attribution, like first touch is there, last touch is there, there is a linear touch, there is time decay where something is not happening by the customer based on the automation that you trigger. So what we can do when that happens. So there's a lot of business measures that can happen when it goes across various customers, right? So we try to accommodate everything into marketing attribution. But let's have a separate session where we can talk about that in detail. We are going to dedicate an entire demo on marketing attribution and automation.
Awesome. Thank you.
I would just want to tell about one new feature that we have released with respect to CRM, that is going to be the Cadence Studio. I'm just going to quickly share my screen here. So Cadence is one of the new features that we have released. So have you guys, I believe most of you have been using autoresponders or auto follow rules, right? So we are going to make that different, we are going to make it as a different version of autoresponders and auto follow rules. So if you go to setup under automations, you have Cadences. When it is an autoresponder, what happens is when you are going to send a series of emails, for example, if you want to send an email on day 1, then there's going to be another email on day 3, then there's going to be one more email on day 5. So it's going to just send those emails on the days that you have set. But if you are going to if the customer is going to respond on day 3, will the email that you have set for day 5 stop in auto follow rules or autoresponders? It does not. So what we are going to do here with Cadence is, based on the interactions that we have with the customer, a series of actions can be performed separately, which is going to be more intuitive when it comes to the responses that you get from the customers. For example, I'm going to send a follow-up email, and if they have opened the email, then I can do something. If I can also set up a call, I can also set up a task. So whatever I do, based on the responses that you get from the customer, a different set of actions can be performed. For example, an email is sent, and then I have scheduled 2 calls. And the next thing I can do is if the call is not attended by the customer or something like that, I can trigger a different email. Or so I have sent an email, right? So after the previous email is bounced, or if I click on any particular link in the email, then what needs to be done? So these type of actions can be performed with the help of Cadences. Like I said, if you're going to use autoresponders, these are not possible. People who are well-versed with Zoho campaigns, in Zoho campaigns, we have these options, but we are trying to imbibe those actions from Zoho campaigns within the Zoho CRM itself with the help of Zoho Cadence. So this is one of the new feature that we have released very recently, and you can also add to which user this email should be sent. What is the template? You can create your own templates based on the module that you're going to trigger this for, and all actions based on that can be done with the help of Cadences.
I had a question, but you answered it at the very end. My question was going to be, if you just want to expand on it, like what problem does Cadence solve, or what functionality does it bring in that wasn't available before? But I think you kind of said it, is that this type of, if the recipient takes this action or this thing happens, it takes functionality that was in campaigns and now brings it over into CRM, like kind of that whole sequence or campaign flow. It brings that over into CRM now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Sam, I've got a question for you. Let's say that you design cadence number 1 and it has 10 or 15 steps to it. And in the middle of it, if the recipient does something, all right, takes an action, clicks on a link, can you launch cadence number 2?
That's a good question. As of now, it is not possible to connect between 2 cadences because it goes through one set of module and it goes through one single follow-up. But I believe we are coming with an action called as circuits within the Zoho CRM, where you can connect multiple cadences. But I think it's under the earth of development, Pete. So it's going to take some time to connect 2 different cadences within one flow.
Okay, thanks.
Not like I understand how this question comes. If it's like a blueprint where blueprint action 1 triggers blueprint action 2, right? So it is very similar to that, I believe. But like I said, it's under the early stages of development.
And so on this cadence thing, you answered what it does. But I think what Sarah was going to start to talk on it, if you can expand on it, before she had her mic issue, was that, okay, how was this done before, or what were users doing before to make this happen?
No, what I was going to say was previously, what we've done is we've had to set this up through like a few series of workflows where you'd want to trigger like the next action based off of the email action. So you'd have to build that in an email workflow and not like a contact workflow. So it got kind of messy to be able to build workflows in the CRM to be able to trigger actions off of email actions. So that's what's really exciting about Cadences is that you're able to, if somebody opens an email, you can send a different email. If somebody clicks on that email, you could send a different email, or you could set a task or things like that. But it's really cool. I think it's really cool and a lot cleaner of a process than doing it through workflows.
Yes, Sarah, exactly. And additionally, if you're going to do it with emails, for example, with workflows, what you do is you go and create the workflow for the emails module. It's not going to be for the prospects or contacts. It's for emails, it's for calls. So it was working based on the activities module. Now we are making it based on the actual modules where these activities can be added in the related list. So that makes it even more better, so that you can also know with which cadence what happens, how many records were impacted based on those cadence, what has happened with those records. So all those things can also be calculated in the cadence section itself. So for example, if you go here, it also shows the number of records for each cadence. Currently it's in draft, so I did not have any number of records, but once it is published, if any record is impacted based on this cadence, you can also see the set of records which you can take a report out of, and you can know what has happened when it has happened as well.
It also shows it as a related list on the contact or the lead record, which is pretty cool. So it'll show you like if you're, and I think you can actually use it as a filter, like a cadence. If I think that might actually be a filter option. So there's a lot of cadences. So you can filter if they're part of a cadence, and then it'll show you down there like a related list as to what section of the cadence they're on. So I think it's really cool oversight, and the reporting on it is really nice.
Thank you, sir. Any other people who are using cadences?
I've tested it within my own system, but mainly just for like preparing it to roll out to clients. But yeah, it's fairly new. I mean, you guys just like release it to everybody within the last couple of weeks, I think, right? So I think it's still fairly new that most people are even just kind of realizing that it exists.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like relatively new, and I believe it's going to solve a lot of problems with respect to emails that are still being sent when certain actions have been performed. For example, we have sent in first email to the customer, and you have sent an email to follow up on the 5th day, but the customer has already replied on the 2nd day. Then the email that is going to be triggered on the 5th day becomes a redundant email. So we are trying to avoid those situations with the help of cadences.
Yeah, it's working well. We implemented it for a client. They tend to focus a lot more on follow-up phone calls instead of automated emails. They have some automated emails, but for their cadence, first phone call goes out when the lead comes in. If the status is call no answer, call no message, something like that, right? They have a certain criteria. Then we set an automatic task to follow up via phone call the next business day. So we also look to see if it's a weekend or a holiday, and then it sets that if they make that follow-up, the second follow-up call, and it doesn't, still the status is meets one of those criteria, then it sends another reminder, but it does it a week later. So she set her cadence like that, and so far it's been working well. We have another one that we're already working on, so we'll let you know how that one goes. But I can tell you it saved a lot of hours and a lot of time with the other method we would have had to use.
Yeah, and this also answers Chris's earlier question on nobody would have guessed on having this process in their mind before this feature came out, right? So like Sarah said, she had to use multiple workflows to try to address the situation. But when we come up with a new feature which can ease out this process, but you have to have a process in mind in the first place on how you have to approach this situation that you have. So like Chris also said, business runs the technology, and that's what we try to do here. We get the feedback from the customers because autoresponders and auto-follow rules have been the same for the past 5-6 years in Zoho CRM especially, and we wanted to enhance that and try to give a better solution to all of our customers. And Cadence is one such feature that got released recently, which is trying to solve that problem.
I haven't dug into the documentation on that yet. You know, I skimmed over it and thought I could get an understanding of it just by a quick skim, and I'm not. So pretty much the same two questions that I had. It's like, okay, what new functionality does Kiosk bring? You know, either into CRM now, and also how were folks, you know, doing things before versus how can they do it, you know, better, easier, faster now using Kiosk. You know, I'm kind of, my spidey sense is telling me like some of the things that you're able to do with the Kiosk now, you needed code or a custom function or something to do that before, versus now you don't need it. So if you can do like a high level overview of that Kiosk, that would be great.
Thanks for bringing this question, Chris. I was going to discuss next about Kiosk, but luckily you started it. So what we are doing with Kiosk is, it's not about using a functionality. So for example, like you suggested, it's not about how you use it with respect to you doing few automations with custom function where it happens in the backend. Kiosk is more of an user interactive place where the salesperson who is actively looking into a lead or a contact can see what is the next step that he's going to do. So I am just going to give you a quick overview of what Kiosk can do here. So Kiosk is where the salesperson can have an interactive display on what he can see and what is going to happen next. And it is also a low code, no code. Most of the applications most of the features that we release, we try to make it as user friendly as possible. So this is also one such place where there is no code involved. So Kiosk has 3 parts to it. One is the screen, the next is decision, and the third is action. So screen, as the name suggests, it displays the fields that the sales rep is going to add when he creates a record. For example, I created this flow keeping real estate in mind. So when a sales rep is talking to a customer, probably he'll be adding a lead, and maybe that lead already exists in the CRM system, or probably it is converted to a contact as well. So the next step is, once the details are added by the sales rep, it goes and cross checks across leads and contacts. And if there is an existing lead or a contact there, it fetches that. So once the lead or a contact is fetched and the sales rep is on a call with the same person, he'll probably have a further conversation on what is the interest of the customer, whether he's looking to rent an apartment, whether he's looking to rent a residential place, whether he's looking to rent a land, buy a land, so whatever it is. So based on the inputs that you get from the customer, those details are again added inside the kiosk, and it again goes and cross verifies with the existing properties that you have inside the system. For example, he's looking for to rent a house or buy a house, and in the list of properties, if we have a house that is available, it fetches those details. So if this kiosk is not there, you will get all the details. Then the salesperson should go and check individually within the property section. I have just renamed my products as properties. So he must go and individually check for the products, or sorry, the properties that is available, and then he must get back. But with the help of Kiosk, the system does that for you based on the criteria that you have. So if you go here, I'll go to prospects. So I have created a button using this kiosk. So once the kiosk is set, you can add that as a button in the list view page. We have also made this option inside the canvas as well. It got released a couple of days back. earlier in Canvas, you cannot add the kiosk as a button, but now you can do that as well in the Canvas. So now I am going to enter the details. So as you see here, this customer is already available as a prospect inside the system. So the kiosk finds that existing customer, and then I'm clicking on get preferences. So I'm going to choose housing, for example. I'll try to close this by next month. So once I get the preference from the customer, I get the list of housing or the houses that I have in my property list. So based on the customer details, I have just added the property category, but if you want, you can also add the square feet or any other particular requirements that the customer has. And based on that criteria, the kiosk goes and searches across properties and get you the details. So I'll probably take this as an example. So once that is done, it successfully converts this as a contact as well. And then if you go to deals, it will also create a deal. So these things are possible with the help of Kiosk. So that is going to be the next step. So screen is where you add the details that you want to gather from the customers. Decision is where you tell the system what must be done if it is this, or what must be done if it is not. And then actions is where you get all the workflow or blueprint options, where if you want to update something, if you want to create an email, if you want to create a record, so on and so forth. So if you just look at this, the first step is gather details, and then it goes and cross verifies across. If the prospect is available, then what needs to be done. If it is not, then what needs to be done. So like we checked here, the prospect is available. So it gets the details of the customer, and then it goes to preferences, and then it goes and checks across the product, and it creates a customer, it creates a deal, assign a call to the customer so that I can talk to the customer later, and then a property sale is also created. So so kiosk is where you tell the system what needs to be done, but it is also going to be a user intuitive section where the sales rep can also visibly see what is happening while they are on a call with the customer. So that is the idea behind kiosk. So if kiosk is not there, you'll be dealing all those steps as different silos where you manually go and enter. Then you have to cross verify if the customer exists. Then you have to get on a call with the customer again to get their preferences. And then you have to go back and check your existing properties. Then you have to get on a call with the customer again. So it's going to be a tedious process where you have to cut the call, go back, check, then call the customer again. But with the help of kiosk, we help to streamline this process where the system does all the cross verification that needs to be done, and it gets the details so that you can, in one call, you try to get the maximum details of the customer, and you can also give few suggestions to the customer because the system is able to go and cross verify and give you certain details.
Oh, that's nice.
I have a question related to Cadences. So are all of the capabilities and features of Cadence available in marketing automation?
Yes, Amy.
Okay, thanks.
Marketing automation can do much more than Cadences. Cadence is like a miniature version of marketing automation. So yeah.
Super, thanks.
So we have changed the entire UI of CRM. Like if you see here, the modules are not listed at the top. Everything has gone to the left side panel of it. And CRM Teamspace is going to make your job much more easier, where you can create Teamspaces. It's like earlier you had all tabs, right? Where you'll be creating separate tab groups on what you can do and which users can see what. So all those things are going to be combined inside the Teamspaces section. And like I said, the reports, you'll be seeing it here. The analytics will be here, and the marketplace comes here. And this search is where you search across modules or across Zoho using Zia. So this is one of the new, this is going to, the entire revamp of Zoho CRM UI is done. And probably you will be getting the access to it. I think if I'm not wrong, or you already have access to it, or if you don't have it, probably you will have it in the near future.
Hey, Louis, that screenshot I just put there is from a Zoho video, and it appears to show Canvas being available on mobile. Is that accurate? Is that correct? The Canvas Studio.
They were working on it. Maybe Sam or Charles can give more insight into when that will be available for the public. But I know that's been in the works. Did they release that already for mobile?
I mean, there was this screenshot again came from Own Your CRM a Zoho video on Canvas Builder, like one of the promo videos on the YouTube channel. So I just assumed that it was already a go.
Yes, Chris, it's there. I'm just going to quickly show you.
Because there's one module where I use Canvas Studio for the UI, and I thought there would be like a really quick button that I could just click on to enable it in the mobile app. But when I didn't see it instantly, I was like, okay, maybe I have to turn it off, turn it on, or sign out, sign back in. So I didn't bother. But if it's there, it'd be nice to know how I can turn it on.
Under the Canvas, like when you go in the CRM and you it's like a different tab. So if you go to like the setup under customization under Canvas, under the detail view, there's two tabs. One's web and the other one is mobile. So it looks like you have to create layouts for both. So you would create like a template for your web version, and then you create another template for your mobile version. Do you see that?
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So that's on the desktop version of CRM. I have to go in there and create a separate layout for my mobile app.
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have is anybody actively using Canvas?
I had a client who used it for a few years. We set her up with a really simple layout, but she's actually switched back to just the standard version because it kind of gets to be a lot to manage when you have a lot of different custom layouts and layout rules and conditions. Right. And she had a lot of that going on. So it kind of got to be a lot to manage. So we just went back to the standard version, but she did use it for a while and it is nice. It is nice, but it does get kind of hard when you got a lot of stuff going on.
Because we walked down that rabbit hole and probably we invested some time, and then we got so far in and I'm like, no, we're going to pivot because it just got, because we have a very complicated system. And I was just like, this is just too much. So
yeah. The more layouts you have, and then the more modules you use, and then the more conditions and rules and stuff, you just have to have a different one for each layout and for each module. So it gets kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've used it since day one. But to that point, we're on a completely different end of the spectrum. Our layout is plain Jane vanilla, so there's not a whole lot going on. So it works for us, but that makes sense that if you do have a lot going on behind the scenes on the back end of the layouts, that it could be a problem.
So I have shared a screenshot in the chat. Canvas for mobile is available, but it is in early access. So probably once the meeting is done, you can get connected with Charles and we can enable early access for you. So if it is enabled, you can go to the Canvas section, detail view, where you will be seeing web and mobile. So you can go and configure what you need to see in your mobile Canvas. And once that is done, you can see the Canvas in your mobile devices as well. I was discussing about Teamspace, right? Just 1 minute. This Teamspace will give you access to different silos based on the different teams that you have within your business, or even if you are a jack of all trades where you get to do everything, you can create these Teamspaces and put separate folders to it. So when you go and want to access a certain module or a certain view, you can go ahead and do it, and you don't have to comb across all the options that you have within the CRM. So this is going to be the new revamp that we are that we have done with the help with respect to CRM. And I believe you guys are the first person to hear it. Probably we are going to have a session in Zoholics where they are going to talk a lot more about it.